After jumping a lot in May in my rankings, Emmerdale jumped from almost last place up to 6th place. In June, it falls one spot to 7th place in my soap opera rankings. It still manages to be better than Hollyoaks, but not by that much. Emmerdale is still... It's one of the things that's been plaguing it for a long while, in my opinion, in that it is boring and that everything revolves around the Dingles. Those are my two biggest concerns with Emmerdale for a long time now. And the writing also just is pretty weak. And we're going to get right into why I think it's weak when we get to this Layla story. They wrote Layla becoming a drug user basically out of thin air. There was no proper build to this storyline, in my opinion. And Layla just became a huge cokehead out of nowhere. And that's been Layla's story these past few months. And she's been having trouble with her drug dealer now. And I mean, the storyline isn't terrible, but it's not great writing either because it came out of nowhere and has progressed super fast that Layla is just this gigantic cokehead. Now, a storyline they've been building at a slower pace is Amelia and her eating disorder. We had her faint earlier in the month, but there hasn't been a whole lot of follow-up to that. And before we get to more of the Dingle nonsense, we had Nicola being attacked by a group of teen girls, and her getting attacked and kind of getting her ass beat, but also just brutally attacked because there was more than one girl. But part of the video went viral, which is making Nicola feel some type of way, and she kind of has PTSD from the incident. Another not bad story, but it's not like this really big good story that some of these other soaps higher in my rankings than Emmerdale just have. Emmerdale doesn't have one strong story right now that a lot of the stories, a lot of the soap operas in my top 6 have. So that's why Emmerdale is in 7th, but it's not quite as bad as Hollyoaks and Bold and the Beautiful and Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. But it is kind of in the same realm as them in the fact that it's boring and the writing is weak. So Noah goes down for 3 months and Charity, of course, blames herself. I like this part of the story. Noah can be an annoying character. I see a lot of people complain about Noah online. But compared to the rest of the Dingles that I've had to watch on this show off and on for so long now, I can watch Noah because he's younger, I guess. And I feel like it's a fresh energy. Compared to, say, Kane, who watching Kane be his awful, annoying self for so many years is so beyond old. You know, I've talked about in some of these other soap videos how there's annoying characters. If I were to make a top annoying character list on soap operas, Kane would be towards the top of that list for sure. But I like Noah going down, having to, do some time in prison for what he did. And we'll see what develops between him and Charity when he gets out. One thing that's been annoying me for months now, and I haven't really talked about it, is that Chloe had this really intriguing storyline when she came on the show about her dad, and then they basically just dropped it. And I don't know why. I don't know if they had some big name actor lined up to play and it fell out or what. I don't know if it's just because she's not a Dingle and only Dingles could have big stories. So annoying. But I'm really mad that they dropped that story from Chloe because it was intriguing and she's not a Dingle. I still like the character of Chloe, but I wish her villain father would have came along and gave us another story that's not a Dingle. And another story that's kind of not involved with the Dingles is, Kim finding out that Will's been looking to see if Jamie's really alive. I'm glad Kim finally knows this. I don't know if Jamie's ever returning anytime soon, though, so I don't know where they're actually going with this story. It feels like a story that's just kind of there right now, because I don't know if Jamie is actually returning to the show anytime soon. Another part of Kim's story was Mary coming out as gay to her. I liked this conversation, but what I realized from this conversation is that Emmerdale is not good right now at writing these long-term storylines. They're either poorly written and out of nowhere, like the Layla shit, or they end very soon. We saw that last month with the Ethan story, which just kind of came and went quickly, or their long-term stories are boring. But Emmerdale, like, the writing is only good at having these little, like, 1 or 2 episode stories, or a few episode events. They're good at the events. They're good at scenes like this with Mary coming out as gay to Kim. I really enjoyed those scenes. But the writing just can't seem to get it together when it comes to the long-term storylines. Even the Marlon story, I mean, it's realistic still. I'm glad that Marlon is having a hard time recovering. But it got a little, like, shallow this with the whole marriage talk between Marlon and Ronan. Marlon doesn't want to marry Ronan now because he doesn't want Ronan saddled with him and the way he is after his stroke. It fits the story, but the Rona side of the story has become a little, like, shallow to me, I guess. So I just don't feel a lot of these long-term storylines when it comes to Emmerdale. And even with Faith's cancer finally being learned by the Dingles, they still had Kane acting so miserable and annoying. What is the appeal of Kane? Please, somebody in the comments tell me, what is the appeal of Kane? British viewers, please tell me. You voted the Dingles as the best family in British soap operas at the British Soap Awards. So tell me what is so appealing about Kane. How is he not redundant at this point? He's very much fast forward material for me. And honestly, Chaz isn't much better. Chaz and Al grow closer over some wine, and it seems like Chaz is turning to Al rather than Patty when it comes to the grief with what is happening to her mother, Faith, and Faith's cancer returning. Chaz also gets on my nerves, but I don't hate her as much as I hate Kane. And honestly, Patty's a dumbass. I get Patty's probably this popular character too because he's such a nice guy, but like him sticking with the Dingles all this time over all these years, he should know better by now. So I can't feel sorry for Patty. Sorry. I can't feel sorry for any of these characters that get involved with the Dingles and get the short end of the stick, because that's how the writing has been on this show for like a decade now, if not longer. So it is what it is for the Patty, Al, Chaz triangle. I would prefer Al and Chaz together. I think that's an unpopular opinion from what I've seen online when it comes to Chaz and Patty. But whatever. Nothing on this show is... They just don't have a good story right now. And they're getting closer to a big anniversary, so they're getting similar to Shortland Street with me when the anniversary is coming and there's like no real good story as we're going towards it. I hope they find a good story. They dropped potential with Chloe and her villain father long ago. We'll see what happens when Noah gets out of prison, but I assume that won't happen until the end of the summer if they're actually going to do 3 months. Maybe he'll get out early. Who knows? But everything else right now, nothing's just a good enough story for me to put Emmerdale higher in my rankings.